Welcome to the Region of Queens Municipality Regular Council, Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Are there any changes or approval to the agenda? Councillor Charlton.
I would like to add under 8.5 discussions, security cameras, please.
8.5 has been added, security cameras, and that is for the vicinity of Queen's Place Playground and Splash Park. Any other changes? Councillor Brown?
Letter came out that we were moving 8.4.
Yes, 8.4, the RFP compensation review. That will come back before us at a time when staff are recommending the proponent for that. That was a budgeted item, so there's no need for that matter to be on our agenda today. So yes, thank you, removal of 8.4. So your security cameras actually becomes 8.4. Ask for a motion for approval of the agenda, moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Gidney. All those in favor? We have a presentation from the Astor Theatre Society, which I do not see anyone here. So I'm going to ask Council if the presenter arrives late, do you wish them added then, or should we just move on with them not here? Councillor Charlton?
Is it possible they were told a time because of the public hearing, or not that you're aware of? I think we just move forward, and if they come forward, then we can add them in.
Yeah. So we move forward, and if they're here, then we'll book them in for next council meeting. Correct? Is that what you wish to do?
I was suggesting that if they were to come shortly, that we could work them in if that was already planned. Just wondering if there's a discrepancy in the timing, given that maybe they weren't told a specific time, but given they had their public hearing, they thought that they didn't have to be here right at 9. It is possible.
It's always immediately following public hearings, which takes a few minutes, but we'll play it as by ear. It's just good to have those decisions made prior to. Any petitions to table at this point in time? No petitions? Public question comment session? Yes, and just name and civic address, please.
Oh, there we are. Thank you. Yes, it's Leon Robertson, 45 College Street in Liverpool. A couple of comments. Under 7.2, you're going to be looking at approving the rezoning from the public hearing there this morning. And from what I reviewed it, and it's certainly something that is needed here in the area, and I would suggest, I would hope that council would approve the amendment. Under 8.4, the compensation review, did I hear you say that has been, there's money in the budget to do that?
That was a budgeted expense, and that has been removed from discussion. Yes.
It's not going to come up later on under 8.4?
No, it will not. It's a budgeted. Council does not discuss the contents of the RFP. Mm-hmm. We budget them, staff carry them out, mm-hmm. Right. And it will come back at the time when there is a proponent, and then council, if they so decide, will make a motion to accept the proponent.
For final approval at that point. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor Norman.
Any other members of the public wish to speak? Hearing none. Approval of the regular council minutes, July 11th, 2023. Moved by Councillor Charlton, seconded by Councillor Romero. All those in favor? Contrary? Passed. Approval of special council minutes, July 31st, 2023. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Hawks. All those in favor? Passed. There are 4 recommendations within the packet. The first is 7.1, if someone would so make the motion. Councillor Brown?
I recommend the Council of Region Queens Municipality agree to waive policy 58, consumption of alcohol on municipally owned properties at the request of Medway Head Lighthouse Society at Port Medway Warehouse on August 18th, 2023, and that the applicant be required to submit proof of insurance in no less than $2 million per occurrence with the Region of Queens Municipality as additional insured, and copy of the in effect liquor license from the province of Nova Scotia to the region, and that all municipal, provincial, and federal laws be strictly adhered to.
Seconded by Councillor Romero. Ms. Henley, would you have anything to add or background to this?
Just for background, the society would like to serve alcoholic beverages at their opening reception on August the 18th. They've been successful in receiving this waiver in previous years. They've been granted their liquor license by the province of Nova Scotia, and they're in the process of obtaining their insurance should the waiver be approved.
Are there any questions of Ms. Henley? If not, I'm going to ask for the question. All those in favor? Contrary? Passed. 7.2, rezoning Lawrence Street in Liverpool. Councillor Muse, you have to withdraw yourself simply because you were unable to make the public hearing. Thank you. And Councillor Fancy is calling a conflict due to his close connection with this project. So there is a motion, Councillor Gidney.
I move that the Council of Region of Queens Municipality give second reading to a bylaw respecting amendments to the land use bylaw, which see a change to the zoning of PID numbers 700279882, 700400423, 700179883, and 70028477 to multiple unit residential RM.
And that's seconded by Councillor Charlton. Comments? Councillor Gidney.
I've reviewed this numerous times. I'm very impressed with the work that's been put forth. The details are amazing with the planning and everything, and I support this 100%. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Brown?
Yeah, we all know that affordable housing is a hard thing to have, and we really need it in this community with people, and I'm really thankful for the group that has come forward to bring this project forward. It's a lot of work, and I for one appreciate it, and I know there's going to be at least 30 families that are going to appreciate it when it's done, so I support it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Charlton?
I would just like to add as well that this has been so well received in our community. There's been so many developments that have popped up lately that aren't affordable, and people are often asking when something like this will come along. So I would just like to thank this group for that as well.
Any other comments? Seeing none, before I call for the question, I'd just like to make a note that often people question the length of the process. This has approximately been a year and a half that we've been dealing with this in one way or the other, either selling the land for $1, which then to the nonprofit group, which then triggered public hearings and whatever. So it's a very lengthy process. There's been opportune time for public input, and that is why often projects take this long when changes are made. So on that, I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor of the motion? Contrary? Passed. 7.3, 2024 wheel loader replacement, a budgeted item, and there is a recommendation within the package. Councillor Gidney.
I recommend that the Council of Regional Queens Municipality approve the purchase of a 2023, I'm not sure, what's the pronunciation of this? Kamaso? WA 320-8 with extended warranty and trade of 2009 John Deere 624K loader at a net cost of $314,700 plus HST.
Seconded by Councillor Brown.
All right. So as you're aware, we issued a tender for the replacement of the John Deere loader that is currently used at the solid waste management facility. A number of submissions were received, particularly one from Wilson's Equipment for the Komatsu loader at $314,700. These numbers include the trade-in and applicable attachments included, as well as extended warranty. And Wilson's was the lowest bidder with the best piece of equipment with warranty attached.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Any questions of council respecting this? I did notice it's, we had budgeted $385,000 for this and it came in at $314,000. So
Yeah, that doesn't happen recently with equipment, so consider this one a win.
seeing no other questions, Deputy Mayor Fancy, you had a question or comment?
Yes, so the 385, would that been through, the trade-in value that goes along with that? Or is, the 314 was with trade-in, right?
That's right, the 314 is with the trade-in, attachments, and extended warranty all included.
Seeing no further questions, I'm going to ask for the question. All those in favor? Contrary? Passed. Thank you. 7.4, appointment of fire inspector. There is a recommendation within the package. Councillor Charlton.
I move that Council of Region of Queens Municipality appoint Miles Harlow as a fire inspector for Region of Queens Municipality to administer and enforce provisions of the Nova Scotia Fire Safety Act, regulations, and National Fire Code.
Seconded by Councillor Romero. Director McLeod.
Yes, Mayor Norman. Presently, Tim Clattenburg is our only appointed fire inspector. Under the Nova Scotia Fire Safety Act, all fire inspectors need to be formally appointed by council. So with that, we're looking to increase the capacity for fire inspection by having Miles appointed to that role as well.
Questions to Director McLeod? Deputy Mayor Fancy.
Yes, so with the fire inspector, is that something that can be appointed, or do they have to have courses to have to reach a certain degree beforehand, or can it be just an appointment?
The appointment is one part of it that's required by the Fire Safety Act, but there would be training courses involved through the Fire Inspectors Association of Nova Scotia to get him essentially qualified to do those duties. But so this is just the one step in that process.
Councillor Romero.
And how long would that take for him to become fully certified?
It's actually not, I guess, formal certification. It's a little bit different than like the building inspectors, where you have to be formally certified. There are just training courses that are put on. It'll probably take a couple of 2 to 3 months probably to go through the course to get the minimum standard or basics for fire inspection.
Any further questions from council or comments? If not, I'm going to ask for the question. All those in favor? Contrary? Passed. Under discussion, 8.1, council implementation report. Are there any questions respecting the implementation report? Councillor Charlton?
Thank you. Just wondering about the one dated February 2022. Would we be expecting these letters to go out to property owners, or have they potentially gone out to property owners, but we've just not finalized that process?
Director McLeod, that relates to your department. It is back at the time when we were declaring the properties as surplus. Could you just give us an update on what's been holding that up?
I guess as far as process, you'll probably recall, it was probably last fall that council kind of initiated some discussions on establishing a policy respecting the sale of municipal lands, given some of the transactions that have been brought before council with no, I guess, standard policy to direct council in their sale of property process. So our former municipal clerk, Eric Levy, had been working on that policy, but I don't believe that has been finalized as of yet. So I guess this project has been kind of stalled pending the implementation of that policy. So.
Any further questions? Councillor Brown?
Yeah, the one from 2019 with Mogan Holdings, that seems to be, it seems to be tied up with the lawyer getting the deed done, or is that the issue now? Still?
Yeah, that's correct. This documentation is with the property owner to finalize that transaction. So we'll get at him again.
Any other questions? Thank you, Director McLeod. 8.2 is a discussion regarding graffiti on a rather isolated piece of region property. Councillor Muse was approached by people within the community. Councillor Muse, do you want to speak on this? I do have 3 photos for people, for council members who perhaps are unaware of the location. They're So just as a bit of history, many years ago, the Region of Queens accepted ownership of a small laneway, we'll call it a laneway, leading to a former breakwater. And they accepted ownership of that land for access to waterway. So that's just an example of the entrance. So this is the remnants of what belongs to the Region of Queens. It's basically the only part of the property that's there. It's a very small sanded area, but basically the Region of Queens owns that little road and this former breakwater, which unfortunately has some graffiti on it that is not friendly. Let's just say is not friendly. The breakwater was placed there long time ago, next picture, to protect the backside of the property. Someone was in from Parks Canada the other day who's familiar with this property, and I know it had been suggested, there have been a lot of suggestions. One suggestion was that the region should see about removing that breakwater. If we remove it, then this land on the other side goes. Apparently, it's a heavy current that runs through there. So the question is, what do we do with the graffiti? I know some of it had been removed or attempted to be removed, but language has come back on it. Area residents are also concerned. You see those large rocks. There's other rocks on that little inlet that's not on our property that are graffitied. But Councillor Muse, would you like to add more to your thoughts on this?
So it's down at the end of Burgess Road where this is happening. We thought about blocking it off, and there's a lot of people that go down and use that beach. So and it's a lot of disabled people that go down there too. So that's sort of the question about blocking it. If it was in Liverpool, we'd be at it every day cleaning it up. And the residents are out in Port Tune area are telling me, like, why are we being second classed? It should be fixed up. They're going to keep coming back. We have people now walking down there in the evenings trying to deter them from doing any more damage. But some of this stuff has to be covered up. I mean, it's not nice what they wrote, and the whole wall doesn't have to be painted. Like I said, I think it's going to be an ongoing thing until somebody builds down there and keeps the people out of there from doing this.
Thank you, Councillor Muse. And when he referenced someone building, there's some lots for sale going in that area. So once it becomes not an isolated location, then probably, and my other thought is perhaps these people will grow up and find some better things to do. So I guess Councillor Muse and I are just seeking some direction, Director Grant and Mr. Chatwin. Can you offer us, what would you offer for solutions?
So when this was originally brought up by the then municipal clerk and discussed with the CAO, we provided 3 options to them in December of 2022. The first option is to continue status quo and do nothing. The second option was to paint over the graffiti that's already in place, and a preliminary cost estimate of around $5,000 was provided to do that. There are some environmental concerns that need to be taken into consideration given the sensitive location of the structure. And the third option would be to remove the wall, which was estimated at $40,000. The majority of that being trucking off-site, since it is so far away from where we typically dispose of material. Again, environmental concerns there as well, working near the water. There's also a provincial control monument as part of that structure for surveying needs, so there's some discussion that would have to go on around that as well.
So there are the 3 options, and removal of the wall would run us into a lot of environmental concerns about the reason it was placed there and what it's going to do to the land on the other side. So I guess direction from council is welcomed. Councillor Brown.
I'm personally in favor of painting it and maintaining it. I mean, a lot of residents are losing access to their water frontage. It's become a big issue when we talk to people as land gets sold. They have less and less access to their traditional places to go. And if we take that wall out, the beach washes out. If we lose that piece of land, it's one more area that people have potential to lose. They may not lose complete access to it, but it's a nice beach that people do use. And I think for the cost of painting it, to make it better for the residents visually is worth it to me.
Thank you, and I'd like to clarify why we call it a beach. It is a beach, but it's probably only twice or 3 times the length of this room. So it's a very small area, but yet, as Councillor Muse said, not old folks, but people who've lived in the community for a long time, they know they can drive their vehicle down that little road and stop there, and they'd like to look out to sea and other things. So, so Councillor Brown has suggested painting. Do you mean like cover the entire thing with gray paint, or like?
No, I think if we cover up the offensive language, we can do that. Maybe Councillor Muse can find people in the community that want to paint a mural on it or something, or maybe there's artists there who would be willing to do something. There's other options besides just slapping a coat of paint on the whole thing. We can do decorations, we can make it an attraction rather than a nuisance.
Understanding that Mr. Chetwynd did make reference to the type of paints and products that would have to be used. It's August now. Is this something that such a thing would need to be led by a staff would lead that? Generally, councillors don't take on those projects because it's more staff led. However, Councillor Muse.
Councillor Brown mentioned about the murals, and people out in that area have brought that up, and it would be a really nice place to put murals. I mean, you see it going up in Halifax now, and you'll see them going on the roadways, and if we could get somebody that would be interested in doing some murals, it'd be really nice.
This is why we have discussion on these items, because again, it would be a staff-led initiative that we presently don't have on any staff's list to do. Prior to the murals, do we just start with painting it clean slate? Director Grant, I'm looking at you because because in the end, this is your department of which we're speaking.
So I guess I'm thinking if council wishes to have it painted, we'll do our best to get it done, whether that's staff resources or finding a contractor that can do it in this time frame as far as sourcing the proper materials and what is environmentally sensitive in that area. We can do that. Does council wish to see the access opened up so that more people can travel down there? The end of the road doesn't have a real significant turnaround area, but there is some room. There may be issues with DOT with increase in traffic in that area, liability with our property, increase in traffic down that footpath as it exists right now. So I guess we need some direction from council on how they want to see that at the end of the day. Painting's one thing, but trying to deter people from doing it again would be a success.
And to Director Grant's point, if we paint it as one thing, trying to keep it clean is another. And once we paint murals, then it becomes not only locally known, but tourismly known. And then what do we do, as he mentioned, about once we make it an attraction, what do we do about travel and parking and turning? Are we better off just to paint it over? Because then staff do bring all these other things that we don't think of, which are very justified to, do we want to make an attraction there that we really have no infrastructure to support an attraction? Deputy Mayor Muse? Deputy Mayor Fancy?
Yeah, so we got multiple issues. I mean, if you want to get rid of the graffiti in the first place, but if you put in a mural and somebody comes in and does graffiti over that, then are we going to be back into another problem altogether? And you don't want to have somebody put all that time into putting in a mural and have somebody write something over it again and destroy what somebody else did. The other part, of course, is to try to stop the people from coming there and doing this. Do we have good internet connections out there that we could put up a camera and such as that we could be able to? Because I know we do still have that one camera here that we bought for the litter cleanup that could be able to. It will actually transmit right to the phone. So you can be able to, somebody else can be able to see it right on the phone, and it's got GPS, so somebody ever tried to take the camera, you could be able to get that. If there's, that's only just one suggestion because without trying to get some way of trying to deter them, we're kind of almost wasting our time, aren't we? Because if you just paint over it and somebody says, they painted over it, we're going to write on it again, or it's something in that nature, or somebody puts on a beautiful mural and then all of a sudden gets painted over. That would be an awful thing too. So anyway, just a suggestion.
I'm uncertain about the Wi-Fi ability there. Other comments, Councillor Charlton?
I think we need to get rid of the derogatory comments. We do that as soon as possible, like Mr. Grant said. And I think as far as the murals go, I think there's some value there. Whether that spot makes sense for a mural, I'm uncertain, but I think we could have our staff look at that, like look at our county with a wider lens of where maybe murals make sense. And that perhaps isn't one of them, but I think these are really two separate things and we're kind of combining them. We just need to get rid of the offensive comments for now.
So Director Grant, you had alluded to your earlier estimate was about 5,000. Do you have that? Is that within a budget? Is that something we would have to make a recommendation for our next meeting to put in within budget as it's not a budgeted expenditure?
That would be an unbudgeted expenditure. Time being of the essence with the season come to a close, whether we wait till September and lose our window to do a quality job. If it's possible to make a motion today, I would suggest we go that avenue.
So I'm going to have to ask council's permission to do that because generally from discussions do not come unbudgeted, but we did see with our special council meeting, we did that. So before we go that route, members of council, is there anyone who is uncomfortable or who does not wish to have a motion come forward, remembering that all motions have to be in writing, so we can defer this until someone writes down a motion, because we do want to keep within our rules. So do you wish to have a motion today, or do you simply wish, or can we give staff direction to do this knowing that the motion, but I guess knowing that a motion's coming at the next council meeting, but then things could change between now and then, so. Councillor Merrill?
I'd like to have a motion today. When you're dealing with paint, it's time is essence and the temperature, so I'd like to have it taken care of.
So here's my recommendation. We have a few other matters for discussion, and then we're going to move in camera. And during that point in time, if someone can simply hand print legibly or handwrite a motion that we can then have photocopied. Can we read this? I move the Public Works paint or hire a contractor to paint over the graffiti. We need to specify that it's on the region's property, because there are probably a dozen very large boulders that are not our responsibility. And we need a cost, $5,000. I move that the Public Works paint or hire a contractor to paint over the graffiti on the RQ1 property of Burgess Road at a cost of up to $5,000. We need 7 of these made. So we'll do this after we come out of, we'll have this typed and do it when we come out of in camera. Is that okay with everyone? Just trying to follow our, all motions should be in writing. Okay, Q1 financial review. Director Vino and the Director, Ms. Plummer. Financial review, Q1.
Okay, so this is, as Mayor Norman said, the review for Q1 is presented how it typically, you're typically seeing it every quarter, we try to focus on any revenue or expenses that are what you would see above 25%, because that's where we would expect to see things right now. Keeping in mind, of course, taxes are collected at the beginning of June, and insurances are all paid as soon as we receive the invoice for that. So deed transfer tax, the budget for that for the year was 720,000. Now we are at 321,000 this year. From that are larger purchases. There were a few high price sales that contributed to this. So I've talked to real estate agents, and they're saying that their sales volumes are down 30%. What would normally be on the market for days is now months. So we do see the trend going down. But again, this is just us using our best guess at the time. Nova Scotia Power, their grant to us is higher than we budgeted. That is set by the province, and we don't know until we receive it what it's going to be. So that's also hard to budget for. So page 2 of 10, under sales of services, the tax certificates are above the 25%. So they're higher than what we'd expect, but that also correlates with de-transfer tax and sales of properties. Licenses and permits are over 50% of where we would expect to see them. 47% of those are from building permits. Return on investments are at almost 60% of the budget already. The main contributor to this is the interest rate continuing to rise and us being able to fully utilize our investment policy. Queen's Place revenue, that's higher than what we were expecting to see. The ice rentals and fitness memberships are up compared to what was expected, so that's good. And for miscellaneous revenue, that is an unsightly claim that was posted as an expense in the prior fiscal year, where it shouldn't have been an expense to the region of Queens. It should have been a lien on the assessed owner. So this is just us bringing that into revenue, and then it will essentially fall to the surplus, what was expensed in the prior year, right?
Yep.
Okay. For expenses, that's page 4. Travel for council is all the mileage for meetings. As you can see, for under reduced taxes, that's our low income tax rebate. And we changed the way that was issued this year, and it's working. There's over $10,000 more from last year this time, so that's good to see. Under other general government services, the 64,000 there, that includes 38,000, which is paid to Queens County Transit, an installment for our CAO search, and the evaluation study for the lift station capacity. Page 5, for protective services, the firefighting force, of course, you'll see more than 25% because we issue 50% of the grants in the first installment. Fire station building, the expense is much higher because we've spent over $30,000 on new heaters and repairs, which staff are working very hard to have this solved and move forward with it. Under transportation services, works and storage garage, so council had approved renovations, so the electrical, heating, washrooms, and additional space for the new positions that council had approved. And the staff training, there were 40 staff members that took a defensive driving course. So page 6, the administration there is insurance. Of course, that's going to look more than 25%. The sewage detection system. So we have maintenance that's of course budgeted here, but the point I was trying to show with pointing out that there were two pumps is that we cannot predict everything that's going to happen. We try, and we use our best guesses at the time and with the information we have. But this is a case where this was not foreseen. Page 7. So planning department is down. I think Director McLeod's down 2 staff from what? Yeah, there's 2 vacancies there, so we would expect to see that down. Tourism and economic development, so the same type of thing. Just the timing, the major expenses haven't been incurred yet. Recreation and cultural services, parks and playgrounds. The Subaru there was a 2017 Subaru purchase for here and a dump trailer. Museums, I noticed that was also up a little bit. So that's because there's a $6,000 rental portion and $8,000 janitor and cleaning for the Astor Theater. So that's why that looks up a little bit. And that's it.
Transfers.
Fiscal transfers. Okay, so those are just the budgeted that's where it is. The budgeted transfers. Page 9 is Hillsview Acres. So we did create a new account this year, other funding sources, just to keep other funding from the Department of Health separate. And here we received $114,000 as a recruitment and retention bonus. So that's why that looks extremely over budget. And under building, we are working on a tub room reno. Some of the expenses are in, but it's not complete. So we haven't pulled the revenue from deferred revenue yet because we do have funding for that as well. And page 10, the water utility, the only real thing that of course sticks out is the interest, and that's our depreciation fund earning interest from our GICs.
Thank you. Questions? Questions or comments? Councillor Brown?
I like getting these every quarter, and it kind of gives us a snapshot of where we're going, and it highlights any issues we may have going forward before they become a major issue that we can't deal with. So thanks for the report.
Any other questions? No. And I think all of, Deputy Mayor Fancy?
With the recycling, we're going to be going into a new phase of recycling, right? To blue bags and things. Is that going to change dramatically what we're going to be paying out?
Yeah, so the province announced the way that they're going to take on the PPP going forward. They haven't given us specifics on exactly what that looks like. I guess the notion of having a 2-bag system is probably going to come more from the handlers on the other end that are recycling, that it will save them 50% of their work on the front end of their line. So it won't be a provincial requirement, it'll be a recycler's requirement for where we dispose of waste at. Does that make sense?
To a degree, does that mean that it's going to have to have more personnel? Is it going to be, is this going to be a bigger cost to us, I guess?
Yeah, I don't think at this time it's fair to comment on that because we're not prepared on exactly what the conditions are and how they're going to impact our operation.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? So I echo Councillor Brown's comment. Thank you for the quarterly update. And rather than just the numbers, it's always great to have the explanations. And you're very good at that. We're up in some and down in others, and we'll just swing with it as it goes. So thank you very much. Um, 8.4, security cameras. Councillor Charlton wished this to be added because this is an unbudgeted number. For whatever reason, exterior cameras weren't considered by ourselves during budget deliberation, or if they were, we didn't value them highly enough. So the discussion, and I see Director Vino's waving her hand and wishes to speak, but Councillor Charlton, if you just want to give a recap about why you and I believe the majority of council recognize the need for them. So
Thank you.
Councillor Vino.
Did you want me? Okay. Yeah, so the splash pad has been placed there. There have already been a few issues there. We recently put an accessible washroom there, and it's locked, but there are still some issues with vandalism. I think that these will continue to happen. Director Grant noted before that there were issues with the skate park. I just think we have this amazing space over there, and I think we need to take additional steps to protect it. And I know it's not as simple as just placing a few cameras, so I would like to see some direction to our staff to come back at our next meeting, possibly in September if that's possible, so that we could move this forward.
Director Vino.
I just wanted to let council know that this is not the first time this has come up. I don't know if you remember, but when we did do budget discussions, we included $20,000 in the IT budget for cameras for Queen's Place because the system inside the building was very old and antiquated regardless. And the first time we discussed graffiti, I had approached our IT manager and he was looking into options for increasing the number of cameras. Now, that's something that's in progress right now, but if it's council's wish, we can expand that to include using, putting in cameras that are closer to the skate park or the splash pad. I guess my only concern would be that council's expectations would be if there's cameras there, it's going to stop it. I don't think that it won't stop 100% of it because, as you know, when people are determined to do things, they put on the hoodies and, but it will provide a tool somewhat for our police agencies. And certainly if that's something that council wants us to pursue, we can absolutely do that. We'll look at more high definition cameras in those areas to provide better pixelation of the picture quality for them to use for identification. But that will be significantly more than $20,000. But once we have prices, we can certainly bring those back to council and you can discuss.
To Director Vino, as a non-budget expense, we could direct that the money be taken out of past year's surpluses?
You absolutely could do that, but then again, at the end of the year, it's going to fall to the surplus anyway and go into this. Do you know what I mean? So you can, but really it's all coming from the same place at the end of the year. So let's say Mr. Wynot comes back with a $35,000 quote that does everything that we want. We would have $20,000 covered in the budget. 15 would not be. So we would be over expense by 15. I would note it when we reviewed the financial statements at the end of the year, and that would just fall to the surplus at the end of the year.
If worse things ever happened and there was no surplus at the end of the year, could you then move from the monies from a special from last year's into it to make it zero?
Yes, municipalities aren't permitted to run a deficit. So if we were even, we had a deficit of $0.01, I would have to move $0.01 over from the surplus into operating so that we wouldn't have one. So at the end of the day, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
So to council, is there anyone that disagrees with providing staff direction to look at high definition cameras, which will cover all of the recreational infrastructure area, which would be universal playground, splash pad, and skate park area? Those three areas. Anyone who disagrees with that? Councillor Brown?
Well, I've brought up a number of times that we need cameras around some of the garbage bins to handle the illegal dumping. And I think if we're going to be looking at cameras, for one thing, we should be looking at more options than just cameras for Queen's Place recreation. We are a regional municipality and we have issues in more places than just one. And this needs to be brought up and taken care of.
So, Councillor Brown, this is a one-topic issue at this point in time, is that location. So I believe that the issue surrounding the garbage boxes is a much bigger issue in terms of compliance and everything else. So I do agree that that is an issue, be it cameras or other types of boxes or whatever. But for now, this topic is strictly at the Queen's Place. You're always free to add that at another time for another discussion, because that's more than a camera. There's all sorts of other issues related to that. So are you okay with, for at this point in time, this is specifically, the topic was the infrastructure at Queen's Place? Councillor Deputy Mayor Fancy?
Yes, well, I'm 100% behind this. I mean, it's a great thing. I have been a little bit disappointed that I have brought up on a couple of occasions now about using the cameras we have to at least be in a temporary position, and we just, as council, have not decided to go forward with those things, even so it may have even helped to prevent this in the beginning. But I'm 100% behind this.
Councillor Charlton?
I think to go back to Councillor Brown's point, when I asked for this to be added, I just said security cameras. That was my intent, although I did not put a location in my request because I also thought that other areas might come up. So I think from my perspective as a council, we could direct our staff to come back with a report for that area at Queen's Place, but we also could give direction now for those garbage boxes, recognizing that's more complex. It probably won't come back as quick, but it would be in progress. We also have the VIC, which has been vandalized lately. So I think if we're going to direct our staff, we should broaden the scope a little bit, but recognize that it can't all be done overnight.
That indeed can be done. I mean, cost saving wise, you're going to get the better cost with the bigger packet. But if we're not concerned about the cost saving wise, then we're just going to do one at a time and one hit off, because the bigger packet, the better. I've also been approached about garbage boxes, and that's a whole different topic that we don't need to talk about today. But I think that in itself is a topic. There's different types of boxes, different types of collections, the compliance, whether or not we can legally even charge. There's all sorts of other issues with that. So for now, this topic is centered on the discussion about cameras at Queen's Place, because that is what I heard was directed that today's topic was at. But we know that there are issues at all the garbage boxes, well, not all of them, but probably many of them within Queens, and that we really need to spend time on to do it, to justify that. But today's topic is strictly the cameras to protect the infrastructure that's just been put in place and continues to be vandalized. So is there anyone who is not in favor of directing staff to come back with a price and a time estimate for security cameras on the exterior infrastructure at Queen's Place? Is there anyone who's not in favor of that? So staff, you have your direction, and we'll look forward to this coming back as a recommendation at our next meeting. And on that note, I'm going to ask for a motion to go in camera, and we'll take a short break. Moved by Councillor Gidney, seconded by Councillor Hawks. All those in favor? Contrary, passed.